And it looks like we are live. Awesome. Well, hello, everyone. My name is Kaylee Haig, and I'm a music therapist and researcher with the Baby Brain Optimization Project at Nationwide Children's Hospital. I am so excited to be joined today by Dean Cook of smallTalk for our very first Facebook Live interview, and I'm so excited that you have decided to join us today for this talk. So if you are here with us today, go ahead and say hello and tell us where you're tuning in from. I am here in Columbus, Ohio. You might hear a tornado siren behind me because we've got our Wednesday tornado siren test right at noon. But we'd love to hear where you're coming from, and we want you to be an active part of this discussion today. So anytime you have a question, please feel free to chat in. Dean, thank you so much for being here with us today.
Well, I'm excited to be here, Kaylee, and thanks for the opportunity. I'm in Chagrin Falls, Ohio, which is just outside of Cleveland.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, hopefully you've got some sunny weather like we do here in the capital city today. It's beautiful. Well, I'm just checking to make sure that it is in fact live on our page, and it looks like it is. So that is fantastic. And we've got Caitlin joining us already. So Caitlin, welcome. We're really excited to have everyone here and talk with us about smallTalk, which is really, really cool device that you may have seen in Netflix. So we're just really grateful, Dean, to have this time with you today to talk about the exciting things you're doing at smallTalk. And like I just said, people may have gotten to see the smallTalk device in action for the first time in Netflix's docuseries, Babies, where the work that we do as the BBOP team was actually featured, which was really, really special. So for those of our viewers that aren't yet familiar with smallTalk, could you tell us a little bit about what you are doing?
Well, first of all, thanks again, and just a huge admirer of the Baby Brain Optimization Project and Nationwide Children's Hospital. What we're doing at smallTalk, or really the company name is Thrive Neuromedical, and the product that we're going to talk about is smallTalk, and this is our first product. But we're really taking the science, the foundational science that you guys have been working on at the Baby Brain Optimization Project, and taking that type of technology, that type of clinical scientific expertise, and translating it into products that are actually easily and ready for use. We're going to focus maybe first on the NICU environment, like at Nationwide, but we'll also get a chance to talk a little bit about what we're doing on the consumer side of things as well.
Awesome. So can we rewind just a little bit and give our viewers a little bit of background about how you and Dr. Nathalie Maitre got connected and how Thrive Neuromedical and smallTalk kind of came to be?
Yeah, sure. So, Nathalie Maitre is my co-founder of Thrive Neuromedical. And, she really runs, I suppose, the research lab at Baby Brain Optimization Project. So we met, my background is in commercializing novel medical devices, medical diagnostics, and most of my career has been focused on keeping babies out of the NICU by predicting and preventing preterm birth. So, if you look at a population of babies in the neonatal intensive care unit, the majority typically are there due to side effects of early delivery. So Rev1 Ventures, which is based there in Columbus, and has worked closely with Nationwide Children's Hospitals on spinning out technologies that have been developed there and creating companies. One of their venture partners was familiar with my background and asked me to come down and meet with Nathalie, some other members of the team, and take a look at the technology that had been developed. And this is a couple of years ago. So that was my first opportunity to meet Nathalie. I actually met her briefly and in a large group, and we didn't really talk just one-on-one at all. So I went away and did some research on the market and the potential, really focused on the NICU opportunity, and came back very interested and very excited because this is very close to my heart with impacting lives this way. And that's when we got to meet one-on-one. And that's really where the concept of Thrive Neuromedical, which is much larger than just the NICU, but really just taking what can we do with really proven science, proven technology solutions to help baby brain development. And that's the broad focus of Thrive Neuromedical, and that's how we came together.
That's awesome. I didn't actually even know that story, so I really enjoyed hearing that.
And it was like maybe third or fourth meeting before I knew that she was French.
Okay.
Because she was English. And we're going to talk about a little bit about language, and it's just kind of a proof point for that as well.
Sure. Yeah, she's pretty amazing. So we're glad that you guys got connected. Can you talk us a little bit about, talk to us a little bit about, so where the idea for the smallTalk device came to be, and if you could even like tell us a little bit about what it is, just because we might have viewers who aren't familiar with this awesome device.
Yeah, so let's start with those babies in the neonatal intensive care unit. Now, we have about 4 million births a year in the United States, and all of us, the expectation around labor and delivery is that primarily it happens in a hospital environment, and then mom and baby go home. Well, for about 10% of babies annually in the United States, for a variety of reasons, driven primarily, but certainly not exclusively by prematurity, mom goes home, baby stays in the hospital, baby goes to the neonatal intensive care unit. So when you think of intuitively, one of the elements that changes, so if you have a baby in the NICU environment versus the baby at home, one of the elements that's missing is that interaction, that daily, frequent interaction with their mother's voice. And, number one, I can start just in an emotional component. So the baby in the NICU might get, on average, 10% of what's called infant-directed speech, listening to mother, versus its peer that has gone home. So that makes us feel emotionally, that baby's deprived. But as you know, and as I've come to know, it's really a brain problem as well, because that sensory development of the brain that happens, after birth is disrupted because that baby's not getting that interaction with maternal voice, and that interaction is replaced with what you guys try as hard as you can, but it's kind of a noisy environment. There's alarms, there's procedures, so it becomes a little bit. Some describe it as toxic. There's really important reasons why the babies need to be there, and you can't underestimate the incredible things that happen in the NICU.
Sure.
But the brain is not really benefiting so much from that. So obviously you can, record mother's voice and figure out how can I, when mom's unable to be there, because daily visitation rates might be certainly less than half. Moms have to travel, moms have jobs, other children. So can we record mother's voice and bring it to the baby? Of course. But you can also, these babies have very sensitive hearing. There's infection control standards. So just using an iPad or an iPhone or a Bluetooth speaker device of some sort off the shelf it can be a bad idea. So number one, let's make a device to record mother's voice and bring it right into the incubator, and that's this device.
There it is.
Now, you guys know at BBOP, you guys have referred to this as the dino egg for a long time because it looks like a dinosaur egg. Egg-shaped, flat bottom, fits right into an incubator. So this nurse presses the button on top, 20 minutes of maternal voice for the baby. And I've seen this in action. I've seen the visceral response by the baby when they hear their mother's voice. But we're not necessarily feeling like this is actually making a large impact on the brain, right? This is kind of think of this as passive exposure. Baby's listening to mother's voice, and that's good, and that's calming, and there's a lot of reasons to believe that's a good thing to do, but it's not necessarily therapeutic. So with smallTalk, when we get into a therapeutic device, that's when we equip the baby with a sensor-equipped pacifier. So this is a NICU Soothie, a disposable pacifier. This is a sensor device, air displacement sensor that fits right into the back of that. And this communicates via low-level Bluetooth, BLE, with the speaker device. Now you can create a contingency between the infant action of suck and the reaction for their mother's voice. And this is helpful. We've seen data. We've seen there's another product on the market to use this for improving feeding outcomes for these babies. We're really focused on impacting the brain, speech and language, cognitive outcomes through this interaction babies relatively instantly recognize the relationship between their action and this reaction. So this is a therapeutic device. We have a grant from the National Institute of Deafness and Other Communication Disorders that's how we developed this prototype. And we're planning on running a multi-site clinical study starting next year.
That's fantastic. Thank you for showing the device off. I think it's really magical almost. And I know that's not a scientific term, but if you see these babies interact with the pacifier and then all of a sudden hear their mother's voice, it truly is this magical instant connection. And I think a lot of people would be surprised to see even premature infants understand that connection right away and be able to then literally request their mother's voice through one of the only like true capabilities that they have to do so. They can't tell us that they want it, but this is sucking on a pacifier is a way that they can truly instantly connect with their mother and request their mother's voice or caregiver's voice, and that's just so awesome.
And as we've seen from the work that Nathalie and the group there has done, and other people around the world, when you have this active learning, this engagement, as you guys specialize in, doing the brain imaging to prove that you're making brain changes happen that are associated with improving those outcomes. And I've had the opportunity to talk with people from the NIH, to talk with companies in the space, and it's kind of fun because I'm able to bring both an intuitive concept that's easy to understand, and then also back it up with really tremendous science. Nathalie is a neuroscientist as well as a physician. Nationwide's filled with physician scientists, and this kind of super strong science behind something that's so accessible that my job is to make it accessible and simple. But knowing that I have just tremendous science behind the company, foundational science, is really gratifying.
Absolutely. So we've got to hear a little bit about how it might be used here in the NICU with the passive voice exposure, as well as this nice contingent voice exposure. But I know you guys have plans for taking it out of the NICU and making it more broadly available. So can you talk to us a little bit about that project?
Well, I'd like to credit, Amy Husted, who joined the company in the last 6 months or so. Her husband is actually who came up with smallTalk as
nice.
a brand name, and they've been rewarded with a bottle of wine. But the concept, as I mentioned before, the concept of the company, Thrive Neuromedical as a whole, is to take technology, science, clinical proof, and translate it into accessible products for everybody. So obviously for babies in the NICU, that babies in need, that's part of the foundation and the focus. But, why just leave it there? If we can make impacts on brains that are very positive, we can bring it to everybody through accessible product design and fun designs. So if we go back to the concept of language, right? So, when babies are born, and correct me, Kaylee, you're more of the scientist than I am. So if I ever stumble on something that sounds like a little bit too not true, then you can step in, certainly. But when you're born, you've already manufactured all the neurons in general that you're going to have for your whole life, right? But you haven't really created the synapses, the connection between those neurons. So it's really experience that creates the sensory development. This is what we saw on the Netflix episode, was really focused on sensory development, right? So hearing and vision create the scaffolding for all sorts of higher cognitive functions. The brain is its peak plasticity for language is actually during infancy. It's a little counterintuitive because, of course, you don't learn to speak when you're an infant. But you're really wiring your brain for language. And the humans are tribal culture. The brain is actually designed for multiple languages. And it's optimized during infancy to wire the brain for its entire life of how to process language. So SmallTalk for Home. So this specific product line, SmallTalk for Home, and this is the first of it, back to the exact same concept. It might take a little different form. Form factor might be a little different in the home environment, but still the contingency between infant action and reaction with the speaker device, but the speaker device will have foreign language. So when you interact with more than one language during infancy, your brain develops, number one, a sensitivity to more speech sounds. Each language has, between 40 and 70 or 90 speech sounds, and all the globe's languages together have about 800 speech sounds. So you're wired to hear speech sounds in different languages, as well as the ability to recruit other parts of your brain to process language. And this becomes a sort of cognitive advantage in how you move information around. So SmallTalk for Home, this first device, is to enable the baby to interact with a language of your choice: French, Italian, Spanish, Hebrew. We're going to have 10 languages at lunch. Baby for 20 minutes gets to happily engage with nursery rhymes, lullabies, stories recorded by a native speaker of that language, all women. Babies prefer the women's voice. They happily are wiring their brain, and they're really priming themselves for all sorts of things, including success in language. So before I leave that, I mentioned this is the first product in that product line. So we have another product under development for around 6 months of developmental age and around 12 months. And this is where, instead of pacifier enabled, we'll utilize another infant action that they can control intentionally and get that reaction of foreign language. That's our patented technology, is to combine those two things for the purpose of brain development and language development.
Very cool. Thank you for letting us know, telling our viewers about that. We did have a question from Ashley. She said, what languages are offered with the SmallTalk device? So you talked a little bit about that, but how did you decide on those languages?
Well, we have 10 languages identified for launch, and I refuse to take the memory test to go through all the languages right now.
That's okay.
I'm sure I'll stumble, but English, French, Spanish, Italian, German, Japanese, Mandarin, that's the bulk. And frankly, we looked at Duolingo to see
which one was popular.
Most popular, as well as the history of that company based over in Pittsburgh. Just to understand, what are people looking for? But our ability to add languages will be based on our customer input once we launch, which we're looking to do next year.
Okay, awesome. So what kind of, customer response have you had so far? I know using the device in the NICU, our parents love it, our nurses love it, because it's so easy to use. You just press a button and the nurses can put it in the isolette or the crib, and then they don't have to worry about cutting it off at the proper time because it just naturally shuts off. So what kind of parent response have you gotten so far?
It's been really tremendous. We've kept the consumer idea stealth until the Netflix work came up, with Nathalie and Baby Brain Optimization featured, which is, was it season 2, episode 3?
You got it.
Watch it if you haven't. But we took that opportunity to introduce what we're doing on the consumer side, as well as, and so we've had a lot of response, a lot of traffic. We've done a little bit of PR work. And then we've done a little bit of through Facebook, just putting the word out, so to speak. And in about 1 week, we have almost 300 people on our waiting list.
Oh,
so
wow.
the reaction is very, very positive. And we didn't really look for that or expect that. We wanted to start to test some imagery and just, get some attention. We weren't necessarily looking to add people, and we're careful not to say that we're going to be available next week, because we have some final work to do that just takes some time with hardware.
Sure.
But we've had a tremendous opportunity. We've done market research as well. We've spoken or surveyed over 1,000 women in the United States, Europe, and China. We've had a lot of product input, and it's been really exciting to talk with people about that.
That's fantastic. Well, I know you're also working on an app for this device. Could you talk a little bit about the app and how consumers
Yeah.
might be able to use it?
So number one, when we talk about this first device, I think of it as a little bit of real estate in a smart nursery, right? Um, people have asked, well, what else can it do or would it do? And so we're Internet of Things. So when I talk about foreign language content, I'm not talking about like a Fisher Price, phone that also talks in Spanish, right?
Sure.
I'm talking about over 2.5 hours of content per language, recorded by usually 3 to 4 different women, native speakers of that language. That's all accessed through our app, through the cloud, right? And then automatically updated to the speaker device or our other products when those come along as well. So that's the function of the app. But the app also allows us to, we believe we want that there's room for some authority on brain development for infants. So people that are interested in that, we have a platform and an opportunity to help educate, help reassure parents about what they're doing. And other functions that I think people find a lot of fun, which is, let's say grandma lives in Omaha or Germany. And grandma can record a go to sleep story or talk about anything that they want, and baby can interact with that or just passively listen to that. We have the ability to interact with other consumers on the platform as well. So there's a lot of capability there that we're really excited to pursue.
That's awesome. I can see so much value in having loved ones who live far away, or in the era that is the pandemic that we're experiencing right now, even families who might live in the same city but can't see each other for fear of the pandemic.
Yeah. We have a few new grandparents that, at least that spent some time being unable, even though they're also in Cleveland, but unable to get to their grandchild. So
right.
It's frustrating, but you're exactly right.
Yeah, technology can help to bridge that gap for now until it's safe. Or, families who maybe have a loved one who's overseas in the military, that sort of thing. Who wouldn't want their baby or their sister's baby, to have their voice too, and be able to connect with their nephew, niece, grandchild that way.
So one of the things that, from the beginning for Nathalie and me both is really, it's technology, right? If we're saying technology and infants or technology and toddlers, well, you can go to the Consumer Electronics Show and see problems with that combination, right? Mm-hmm. Screen time, things that are kind of replacing human interaction or designed to be addictive. So that is, the culture of the company, and the core of the company is really built on using technology to help and to be part of, not stand in the way. This is not designed to be, replace something at all.
Sure.
So when we talk about, things that we just described, recording voice somewhere else via the app and having it appear at home where mom and baby or family and baby are, that's not novel in and of itself. But I think that's consistent with the brand. Our novelty, our patents are really based on connected devices for the purpose of language development and brain development. That's the core strength that we're going to have. But when we talk about what else you can do with that platform, these things that are really aligned with family are the things that come immediately to mind.
Absolutely. And it seems that it's much more intentional than a lot of products that you could go to, the Fisher Price website, not to call them out necessarily, but they're a big company that produces a lot of this content. Is it's a lot more intentional. A lot of those products that other companies produce, I feel like a lot of them are like, well, adults think that babies would like this. They're flashy, they have a lot of bright lights, but especially when you're talking about preemies and young infants, you want to have things that are really science-based and that are really aimed to help promote their development and not overstimulate. And a lot of those, even the mobiles, can be really overstimulating, loud, even have too complex of music than what music therapists would recommend for young infants or premature infants. So I always appreciate that it's very much like parent voice driven and based in the science, which of course we wouldn't expect anything else from Dr. Nathalie Maitre, but it just shows that you guys care very, very much about providing intentional products that are aimed to promote development and that are very safe.
Yes, 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 yes. You know, all of that, I completely agree. And you know, one of the things is like, I've had this question: are you a toy company? And I'm like, no. Like, are you a, you know, your tool? You're a therapeutic. You're a medical company. You're like, no. Like, it's like we bridge a lot of things. We're not necessarily a language learning company. This is our first product, of course, is built on language. But, you know, I think we're really a technology company that's really focused, you know, taking neuroscience, real science, and making accessible. And when I say accessible, I also mean price-wise too. You know, we're very important to us that we're not positioning things as, you know, only the 1% or the 5%er can access. That said, you know, this is technology. You know, we're targeting a price point of about $125. There's hardware, there's software, there's a lot of things to do here. But we want to make it as accessible as possible. And we have some other things to really prove that out as well, with how to give back to the community and make sure that, that all babies are able to access what we're doing.
That's fantastic. Well, I would love, as we're wrapping things up a little bit here, I would love to promote our viewers to feel free to chat in anything if you're interested, have questions about experience dependent learning, like we've been talking about a little bit with infant learning and neurodevelopment, or questions about the smallTalk device. You've got us here for a couple more minutes, so feel free to chat in. I have a couple more questions for you too, Dean, but I just wanted to plug that one more time in case anyone has any questions for us. But I have to ask you, what has it been like to collaborate with the BBOP at Nationwide Children's?
Well, it's been great, you know, and obviously I'm going to answer positively there, right?
Thank you.
So let me give you an example of why. It's number one, you know, like I don't know what ranking you want to point to, but Nationwide Children's is certainly, you know, one of the most highly regarded institutions around the whole country, around the whole world. And, you know, you attract patients given the incredible expertise in some really, really interesting areas. So baby brain optimization Project Lab has been just super welcoming and easy to work with. And again, I'm new to, like, you know, I was always on the obstetric side, right? I always said, like, you know, once the baby's born, you kind of throw it over the fence to the pediatrics and the NICU side. And other than touring a NICU, I had not spent much time on that side. So again, trying to keep people away from that, that outcome that leads to that. So seeing the technology, the kind of work that you're doing, taking the incredible assets that Nationwide Children's is able to provide, and Nathalie's work in attracting investment, you know, grants, RO1s, all that type of stuff, and really being devoted to make it things that can impact people's lives in all sorts of settings, you know, in level 4, level 3, level 2 NICUs around the globe. You know, that I think the culture comes through in each of the people, and it's just been very gratifying.
Well, thank you for your kind response. We appreciate it. And I know colleagues that I've worked with in the NICU who have then since gone to other institutions have really appreciated having this device and are looking for similar things to be able to put into their NICU, but haven't found things that are clean and safe. So
we have probably 15 NICUs on our waiting list as well.
Wow.
So, and again, the same thing is that's not been something I've been overtly looking for, but it is based on the publications and the people and the networking. People are looking for a solution for that. So I'm very excited about it.
Yeah, I think people are pretty open to the idea of having parent voice at bedside. Like, you don't really need to sell people or to have concrete science, although that there is a lot of research to support the benefits of having, especially mother's voice and dad's voice at bedside. People get that though, you know, it's something that parents can do for their baby with fairly low risk, except for, oh, I think we lost Dean for a minute. There he is. I was just saying it's fairly low risk, except for the device itself can be a risk to bring into the NICU. So we appreciate that, and I'm just very, very excited to have more NICUs, more people be able to have this device to benefit their babies and beyond the NICU.
Exactly.
Awesome. Well, I don't think we have any other questions. I'm checking. Of course, you guys can chat in. This video is going to live on our page. So if you have any other questions, the BBOP and the smallTalk team can absolutely answer those after this interview is over, because we'll have it forever, which is exciting. But one last question for you, Dean. So when will this be available for people to purchase?
That's a great
question.
What's your
target?
So we are targeting for the hospital, the passive product. That's because it's simply passive exposure to maternal voice. It's not a therapeutic product, therefore it's not regulated by the FDA.
Okay.
So we're meeting all the HIPAA standards, infection control, noise levels, all those types of things. But we're looking at the first quarter of next year for the availability of that service. And then for the home use, and then for the connected pacifier device, for NICU, that requires some data for the FDA and a specific claim. We have a pre-meeting with the FDA later this year, and I would anticipate that trial is going to take some time. So probably a couple more years before that's available for use in NICU.
Okay.
But our consumer product, we're looking at about the second quarter of next year. We're probably going to provide early access to the app before that, also in the first quarter of next year. So just sign up for a waiting list or follow us on Facebook or Instagram or things like that for anybody who's interested. Developing the hardware, it's firmware, software, electronics.
I can't even imagine.
Yeah, it takes some time and money. So both those things are in our favor, but it's going to take a little bit of time.
Okay. And we do have a question from Amy. She says, how can people join the wait list?
So right to our website, smalltalk.tech, and you can easily find a button to sign up. We're also taking some interviews. If people, consumer interviews, we're always talking to people. Want to hear, input, ideas, to be as customer focused as possible. And also, for anybody on the NICU side, I'd love to link in with anybody to get on our wait list there. We can also do that through the website, but we're happy to hear from anybody and everybody.
Awesome. Well, Dean, thank you so much for joining us today to talk about your work and your work with smallTalk.
Well, thank you so much for the opportunity. It was a pleasure.
Awesome. Well, it was so fun to find out about this device, especially after getting to share it with our patients and families for the past couple of years. So I know our parents appreciate this opportunity, and we're really excited that this will be available for other families too.
Well, we're excited about the future and appreciate the work with the laboratory, BBOP and Nationwide, and thank you again for your time.
Thank you, Dean. We really appreciate it. Viewers, keep an eye out on this page for future Facebook Live interviews. We have a lot of exciting things in the works for you. And if you have any questions about what we talked about today, like I said, please feel free to post on our wall or post in this event, post on this, this video. You have multiple ways to get a hold of us, and we're happy to answer any questions that you might have. And if you have any ideas about what you might want to see from us in the future, please feel free to shoot us a message because we would love that too. If you're interested in learning more about smallTalk, I'll make sure to link their Facebook page and their website in the comments below this video once it's finished uploading. And thank you all so much from the whole BBOP team. We'll see you next time. Take care.